And I think the things that we're going to go over are kind of important. But also, too, I want to start off by saying I don't know if you guys have changed the way you've done things. I know you change things every year, but when I was here helping out, the fact that you do your POLs and the exhibition nights and the project-based learning, those are all completely new to me. And I don't know if I would have survived in that environment in high school. I don't know about you, Jay, but the fact that when he told me that for senior, what grade are you guys in?
Senior.
Okay, so what was it?
Most of us are
seniors. So, like when I started here, the POL format was the same. You come up here and you present in front of a panel of teachers, and then there were your friends behind you. I think that was changed 2 or 3 years ago. It was like passion projects.
No, they don't do those anymore. No, but they've all experienced it.
Oh, okay. So what is it now? Like what is it this year?
Senior presentation project, like the senior.
Is it the same? Is it the same thing where? Do you have to talk about what you like in life? Or
so for the most part, the format isn't they're not talking about their classes, they're talking about something that they've researched.
Okay.
But the same format of presentation.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, anyway, my hat's off to you guys. I have a lot of respect for you guys. I didn't, when I had actually zero interest in helping teenagers when I first came to DES 5 years ago because I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting, dangerous minds, just a bunch of gangsters, just a bunch of barbarians. But when I actually came to the school, almost without exception, the students here were bright and intrepid and curious and smart and polite. So it completely blew me away. And even physically, where I was here to help with physical training, I also love learning in general. So I'd sit in and I'd audit physics and A&P and history and economics and things like that. So love to toss it around, but I know Jay wants me here to talk about kidneys. Right? Have you guys had the renal lecture yet?
We're like right there.
Kind of.
Okay. Like you've seen. Can I use these?
Yeah.
Does this work? All right. So you've been exposed to the kidney. Yeah. Right. All right. So you've seen this picture. All right. So I'm guessing he wants me here because you've learned how kidneys function. I think I'm here to talk to you about how kidneys do not function, like what happens when they don't work, and what hope you have in case that they do work, and hopefully what happened to me will happen to none of you or anyone that you know. So that means if you're seniors, that means you're 17, 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So raise your hand if you knew exactly what you wanted to be when you grew up. When you grow up. That's completely okay. So I've got 4 people. Cool. I have a lot of friends who didn't know what they wanted to be when they grew up, and I'd say that we're grown up now, and a lot of my friends still are trying to figure it out. When I was 17, 18, I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a U.S. Navy SEAL or Force Recon Marine, a commando of some sort. That I wanted that. I ran cross country, which I sucked at. I wrestled, which I was okay at, and then I swam, which I loved, for about 3 or 4 years in a row because. From all the research I did, when you go into special ops training, all you're doing is running, swimming, and fighting. And then I had I was also in martial arts, and I was in this military program. So pretty much what I'm saying is I invested myself into the training that I was going to be in, mindset-wise and physically. I'm 17. I have a late birthday, so I'm 17, and I had my parents sign the early release thing, and then I go to MEPS, which stands for the Medical Exam Processing Center, where if you want to go into the military, everyone has to go through that. And then they found this thing called protein. Can you guys see this? Protein. Should I write it bigger? You can see it? Proteinuria. So all this means is, if you hear urea, what do you think?
Urine.
Okay, good. And then protein is protein. So they found protein in my urine. That's what they found. It didn't mean that I was eating too much protein. It meant that something was going wrong in my kidneys. It was not functioning right, and it was not filtering protein out properly. That's what that meant. So what happened next, though, it didn't seem like a big deal to me at the time, but what happened next was they said, you are disqualified from entrance into the military. Try again in 2 years. And I was devastated. Yes?
Sorry, I was just saying, you're using the wrong marker.
I am using the wrong marker. Thank you. Thank you. Not even Jay would tell me that I was using the wrong marker. I need more friends like you, because he will let me walk around with something off of my face and just let me get embarrassed. Where is the? All right, that is why, right? It's gonna be there the whole year.
No.
Don't worry, you're chilling.
All right, wait.
We just
What about this?
We have a squirt thing for that.
All right.
That is a good marker.
Protein.
Yeah, correct marker.
Urea. Thank you, Jay. But more thank you to you. Okay, so they said come back in 2 years. So imagine that you're training 5-6 years in a row, from probably 13 to 17. You're waiting for this day, and they say that you can't do it. And I'm watching. I remember this day because I'm watching as these. At the risk of sounding completely judgmental, I'm watching all these other people who had not trained the way I trained, who had not studied the way I'd studied. I placed extremely high on their little exam where they're asking me to be in the nuclear program or whatever, and I'm like, no, I just want to be a piece of crap little grunt rifleman. So that's all I wanted to do. And then watching them go, and then I can't go. I remember the letter saying that you've been disqualified from entrance. So I went to a doctor, and then they said, you know what, there is in fact a malfunction with your kidneys. It's not indicative of something going wrong right now, but eventually something will go wrong. Something catastrophic will happen later on. So I'm 17. I played 3 sports. I'm a dude. So imagine saying that to someone like me. Like I was just like, no way. Like absolutely not. So I waited 2 years. I went to high school. Any Filipinos here? No. This is a first, except for you.
Any Filipinos?
Yeah. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Listening, we don't do that very well. Yeah, it's good. So, that's all right. In Filipino households, to them the epitome of the American dream is nursing. So I didn't know what else to do. So I went ahead and I took nursing courses in college. Didn't like them at all. I went back 2 years later, and proteinuria was still there. So it happened in 97. I'm completely giving away my age. I don't care now at this point. 97 happened, and then 99 it happened again. And in 99, they said that you are permanently disqualified from service. You can never, ever serve. And now I'm completely crushed and confused and angry and heartbroken. I was still training, I think, at this point. Yeah, I got recruited into the swim team at college. I was starting to dabble with weightlifting and gymnastics. And by the time that this happened, I didn't feel any different. Every life was completely the same. But they showed me the numbers. I don't know if you guys go through. Any of you have SIA for medical interventions? Is that class still a thing? Mm-hmm. All right. So have you heard of this thing called? Every year I come here, there's some new stuff going on in DVS. I have no idea what classes are. Creatinine. Do you have any exposure to this lab value, creatinine? All right. So depending on what hospital you go to and what textbook you read, can anyone give me a range of normal creatinine? Hint: it's very low. Nobody. That's okay. So it's 0.2 to 1.2. This is kind of the average. When I got checked, actually, I'm gonna wait on that. So this is 1999. I'm completely heartbroken. And so from here on, I didn't know what to do because I was so focused on just the thing I did want to do. I probably, looking back, I probably just punished myself out of low self-esteem. So I looked for just the hardest, roughest jobs I could find. I've always loved physical training. So I would go up to FedEx, and I'd go to Home Depot, and I'd go to like little engine. I was paid cash. I forgot the place of the name, but it was like this little go-kart racing place where I fixed engines in the back. So I'd always look for like the dirtiest, suckiest, hardest jobs there were. I didn't care. Like I really didn't care. I traveled a lot. I read, and I just worked. So that was that. If I was smarter in life, I probably should have followed the doctor, because the doctor was like, look, maybe you shouldn't focus on the military. Maybe you should focus on preventative measures from this thing getting worse. Did I listen to him? No, no. So I just lived life, and then fast forward to 2000, I think it was 2003. Yeah. I came back in LA. I was still working outdoors in a construction type job. And it's summertime. I lived in the valley. Anyone from the valley? Anyone ever been there? Yeah. What part?
From Bakersfield.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's way north. That's way north. But anyway, same idea. It's hot. It sucks.
Yeah.
I was in Chatsworth, and it was like 100 something to 112 degrees every day. I worked outside, just humping weight and concrete and pipes, and then things started happening at once. Like I wasn't sure which one came first, but a lot of things started happening at once. And anyone ever have migraines? I've never had them up until this point, but it's like this. It's as if, you guys know what vices are, where you twist them, and it's like It literally just squeezes your head in. So out of nowhere, I just have this. I've never had them before or since, but I imagine that's what migraines felt like. There's another thing that was going on called polyuria. So obviously that's urine. What do you think when you hear poly?
Fat.
A lot. Yeah, it just means a lot. So let's basically say if you have you have to pee a lot, like throughout the day, and you can't hold it, and it's super clear. So usually you can hold it, but if you have to pee a lot, it's as if you're on one end of the warehouse and you have to run to the other end, and you like can't hold it. It just happens. It sucks. So you got migraines, you got polyuria. I'm gonna assume none of you have ever had a heart attack, but I can imagine that. Imagine walking around and it feels like your chest just explodes inside of you, and you can't do anything. You literally are just like this, and I have no idea what those are called, but like miniature heart attacks, like fake infarctions, no idea. But there was the miniature heart attack things going on, and probably the worst of all was I'd be waking up in the middle of the night around 10, and then I couldn't breathe, and this was probably the worst because all the other stuff you can deal with, like migraines, you can kind of deal with. The polyuria you can deal with, it's just embarrassing. The heart attack thing, it actually happens fast. So it's like, if I die, then at least it won't be long. It'll just like happen. But then waking up at 10 and staying awake until 2 or 3 in the morning and you can't breathe, that really sucks. Because it's like, everyone just take a big deep breath right now. And then a big exhale. So that feels good generally, no matter what you're doing, that generally feels good. What you're experiencing, the good that you feel is lots of gas exchange happening. You're getting oxygen and getting rid of carbon dioxide. But I could feel that something was wrong. I could feel that the gas exchange was not happening. I would take a big deep breath, and somewhere beyond a certain point when I was breathing, you could literally hear gurgling. You ever like gurgle in your mouth? So yeah, so basically I found out later that that my kidneys had failed, and so they're trying to leach out toxins and bad stuff wherever they can, and they're leaching them out into my lungs. So I'm essentially drowning in myself. So 2 or 3 times a week, I'd wake up at 10, stay awake until 2. I tried everything. I tried putting garlic in water and just breathing because I read somewhere that it helps your breathing. I tried Vicks. I tried these Eastern teas. I tried cleaning out my stuff. All these things. The 2 or 3 times a week became 4 or 5 times a week. So that means I'm sleeping 2 or 3 hours a day. On top of all this stuff, in complete denial. I thought it was just a result of my lifestyle because I just was outside all the time and worked hard and didn't care. So one day I'm at a party. I love dogs, so every time I see a dog, I have to play with it. And it was this huge Rottweiler, and I got in a headlock and I started like rubbing its head. It never bit anybody, but of course it like nipped me in the face. And I think because my body was there was already so much bad stuff going on, and I just was in denial. My face. It literally looked like I had swallowed a huge grapefruit. It just like stuck right here. So all my friends are like, "Oh my God, Zeb, what's happening?" So it's completely embarrassing because we're taking pictures and I'm trying to face to the side so I don't see the alien coming out of my face. So they're like, "Maybe you should go to the hospital." And I'm like, "You're probably right." So I went to the yeah.
Sorry. Did it swell up that evening, like at the party?
That evening, like in a matter of 15, 30 minutes. Wow. Yeah. Because things are not right. Like things are not going on. So. They also you'll see where this story is going, but I go to urgent care, and can anyone tell me what normal blood pressure is? Somebody.
120 over 80.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, 120 over 80. Yeah, good. So this is normal blood pressure. If you're in shape, or if you're just genetically gifted, it could be something like 90 over 40, like if you're a track star, if you're in good shape. And then, but when I went to the hospital, mine was 190 over like 110. Jeez. And so, and this was 2000. Yeah, this was 2003. Just did that. But, and of course, they do what good doctors do. They're like, are you feeling any different? Is anything else going on that's weird? And do I tell them the truth? No. Everything's fine. I know. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's like everything's fine. And so I go home, and at this point, my parents live in Hawaii. My mom is a nurse. I was this close to not telling her because the truth is, guys, after months of dealing with all this, all I wanted to do was sleep. That's literally all you want to do. And it's a good thing I didn't, because that's like your one ticket out. So basically, I told my mom, hey, this was my blood pressure. I didn't know what normal blood pressure was, and she called me immediately, just like livid, just like I don't remember what she said, but it was just like kind of this banshee like noise, and then it was just you have to go back. I can't believe they let you go. You have hours or days, she said, and I knew she was telling the truth, but when you're dealing with this, like nothing seems real at this point. So to not break my mom's heart, not for myself, but to not break my mom's heart, I went back the next day, and the next day it was something like this, like 220 over 120 or something, and I'm just like, I felt completely fine. I felt completely fine. Why? Because from 1999 to 2003, this is what I was living with. I think this was 2003. So like 6 or 7 years, I've been living with high blood pressure. So of course, I got a different doctor, and she's like, so I'm glad it wasn't the other doctor, even though it was kind of my fault. I take ownership of that. She's like, you're a young man, you shouldn't be. These are emergency room. This is emergency room level numbers. I'm gonna send you to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room, and then they did it again. They took it 3 times because they're like looking at me, and they're like, you don't look obese. You're not old. These are telltale signs of kidney failure. So long story short, there's this protocol in medicine. If any of you are ever going there, you have to take three different ones, and then you take the average of the 3. So either way, it was bad. It was getting worse by the minute. And the first thing they did was give me blood pressure meds to bring my blood pressure back down to normal, and I didn't like it at all, because to live with this for 6 or 7 years, to go back to that inside of 30 minutes, I don't care who you are, it's as if you're taking, I wouldn't even know, Valium, like 6 of them. But I was the first thing they said was, we're going to take some blood work. So they took some emergency blood work. The first thing they're going to look at is my creatinine, and then at the time I didn't know what normal creatinine was, but you guys know now that 0.2 to 1.2 is normal. They came back and my creatinine was 14, freaking 14, and it's like, how are you walking around? You know? So yeah, you look super concerned. I'm not trying to break your heart at all. But so between this and between that, they said they have to bring in a nephrologist, which is a kidney specialist, and I need to chill in the hospital. So the nephrologist comes in, introduces himself. He's still my nephrologist to this day. Love the guy. We're actually Jay. We're working on a book together, so that's cool. But he's just like, your kidneys have shrunken and essentially died, because the first thing they're going to do is try to save it. They're going to take an ultrasound. If they look normal, if they look like this, then there is hope. If they don't look like that, there is no hope. I guess they look like that, and then when they actually took it, it was just like completely wrecked, like a raisin. So the first thing they said was, in my head, he's like, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but in my head, all I was thinking was like, well, okay, what do I do? Like, what's the next thing? I wasn't necessarily heartbroken. It was more like a math problem, because I knew if I went emotionally to the place where most people go, I'd be wrecked. I'd completely have a psychotic breakdown. So I'm just treating it as a math problem. So the next step was this thing he called dialysis. Has anyone ever heard of dialysis before? So does anyone know anyone who's in dialysis? You can count me, but does anyone know? Currently?
Yeah.
Okay. You do too?
Yes.
No, someone in dialysis? They're still in? Yeah. So, how much time do I have, Jay? Should be all day? What are you looking at?
205.
Is there a clock I'm missing?
205. Sorry.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's this clock you're looking at? So I go to dialysis. I'm gonna try to keep the dialysis portion technically short, but spiritually long, and here's why. You've all seen the Matrix movie, so no, that's okay. That's okay. So you're in the Matrix. You're sitting in a bunch of like darkness with a bunch of people just laying there plugged into stuff, and they're just sleeping. Dialysis clinics kind of look the same, but everything is white and everyone is old. I'm 22 at the time, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. They put me into surgery. They put a catheter in me. So there's a catheter coming out of here, and it goes into my, I think it was my, I'm trying to remember the A&P. Sorry, A&P teacher. Superior vena cava or something like that, where it comes in and it goes into my heart, right? And so there's two ports coming out. You sit down in the machine. They plug in one port, pulls blood out of you. The machine is pumping it through a filter, and then the filter pumps the blood back in, because the kidney is a filter and the kidney has failed. and therefore they have to replace it somehow. So I'm at dialysis 3 times a week for 4 to 5 hours at a time. And just think about this: your kidneys work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the best machines cannot replace the best functions of your kidney. And I have a poor substitute for 15 hours a week. So there are some major life changes going on. It feels like crap, and crap is not the right word. The only way I can describe dialysis, I was on there for 9 months, by the way. The way I could describe it is, you all walk around, you know you're alive, but it felt like I was not alive. It felt like someone had reached in and taken my soul out, and I was like half in and half out. I felt like I was half here and half somewhere else, all the time. I have a lot of friends with a lot of different theories, because the filter just indiscriminately filters, because it filters out bad stuff and it filters out good stuff, and you're not on it all the time. Your kidney knows what to filter out and what not to filter out. So I just felt like this Walking Dead thing, like I was just this abomination to life. So there are some, and plus there's this thing coming out of me that was a machine. So there's like lots of identity stuff happening. But my mom, thank God, is like a smother mother. So this is before the days of social media. Somehow hacked into my email and found all my friends, and she sent out this mass email that was like, Zeb is in the hospital, Zeb is dying, Zeb needs a kidney, blah blah blah. And so I'm like, Mom, what, like, why'd you do this? Because at this point, all I wanted to do was be left alone. I'm completely ashamed and embarrassed, no idea why. But basically, she said Zeb needs a kidney, and almost 30 of my friends stepped up, 30 of them, and so, which was super cool. And then, but of course, my blood type is type O, which means I can only accept from type O. Ironically, I can like give to anyone who's gonna take that. But all my friends were type A or type B or type AB, except for 2 of them. 2 of them were type O, and 1 of them matched. A girl, a redhead Viking white girl. And so we went through the stuff, and it was so cool because I'm working in a construction crew, which is all dudes, just locker room talk. And so April 21st, 2004, so that's coming up. That's this Saturday. Yeah, because I take her out every year to celebrate. But yeah, in UCLA, April 21st, 2004, they took her in at 7 a.m. They took me in at 9 a.m. And then I woke up, and it was the craziest thing, because remember, I'm walking around half dead. And then I remember waking up. I remember them bringing me into the OR, and there's this guy who's like, "Hi, my name is blah blah blah. I'm here to help you calm down." And in my head, I'm just like, "Okay, I'm tough. I can take all your drugs." And so he's like, "I'm just gonna give you something to help you calm down." He puts this mask on me, and he's like, "All I want you to do is count backwards from 10." I'm like, "Okay, I got this." 10, 9, 8, and all of a sudden, the guy is gone. The room that was lit. I'm not in that room anymore, and I wake up and I'm in this completely other room. It's not 9 a.m. anymore. It's freaking 3 p.m. and it's dark. It's literally like that. So I'm out for like 8 or 9 hours, right? And so it's different when you sleep for 8 hours or 9 hours, because when you wake up, you feel refreshed, and you wake up and you're like, I obviously slept well for like 8 or 9 hours. But here it's as if you blink your eyes and open them. I was scared that there's chemicals out there that can do that to a person. It's like, no wonder anesthetists make so much money, because they have to handle things like this that can do this to a human body. So I wake up, and then there's this nurse who's just sitting there. And then, but here's the coolest thing I took away from this was, remember, I'm coming off half dead with no soul. I remember waking up, and it literally felt like the universe exploded in my stomach, and it just like spread out, and I felt alive again. That was how cool that was. So. But they were just like, "Hi, my name is Nurse blah blah blah. You just had surgery. Are you in any pain?" And then I'm trying to figure out if any of you have been through surgery. You know what this is like.
Yeah.
And then, what was your surgery?
I had broken rib.
Broken rib. Okay, so they put you out, and then they did
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So you wake up, and then it takes a minute, but then all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh wow, yeah, I am in pain. This really hurts." And then they're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain like? And I'm like, and I can't talk, because I found out later, these drugs like literally knock you out, and they have to artificially breathe for you. So they put tubes in you to artificially breathe. So your throat is dry and you can't talk. And so I'm like trying to say 9. I'm trying to say 9 because I don't believe in 10. I don't believe that if you're at a 10, you should be passed out from the pain. So to me, the highest I can communicate my pain would be a 9 out of 10. So I'm just like, and I'm trying to talk, and I'm like, like this. And so she's like counting my fingers, and she's like, oh my God. So she goes, let me find out if the doctor prescribed pain meds. She looks at her thing, and she's like, and I don't know if this was the right move for her, but she told me the doctor had not prescribed pain meds. I could have done without that. I could have done without knowing that the doctor didn't prescribe me pain meds. So she's like, let me go get a pain med prescription. You can't move because you're under so many drugs, I just found out. And I'm watching her with my eyes as she leaves the room. And then who's standing there but my mom, who's freaking out. And my mom's a nurse at this time, so nurses make the worst patients ever. She's like, I'm his mom, I'm a nurse, and so she's short too, so she's like, and in my head all I want is my pain meds. So I'm like, and all she's doing is yelling at this poor nurse, and all I want are my meds. So I'm like trying to look for stuff in my room to throw at, but I can't move because I'm like drugged up. And so eventually he came out, and there was this huge mess. But basically, that was the transplant. That was dialysis. I want to segue this into saying that when I woke up, I realized that I had a second chance. I'm a super stubborn guy, so literally the minute up until I had the transplant, I still believed with all my heart I could still be in the military. I had a lot of friends that had went in. I had a lot of friends that had been through multiple tours. I would ask them how it was to try to live vicariously through them. And so, but by this time they were like, you know what? It's probably best that you didn't go through. And they're telling me all these stories. They're telling me all the BS that happens. But to me, it's like, still, you had the chance. I didn't get the chance. But I had to find something else. And so I did end up going to nursing school because I didn't know what else to do. I found out I found it a way to not break my mom's heart again, because I got accepted to nursing school, and when I was 19, I did not accept it, and she was heartbroken. So I actually did go back, and I finished it. And ironically became a dialysis nurse. It was the only thing that made sense to me. But my point is, I did halfway through nursing school, I found this program called CrossFit. Yes, question.
So do you only have one kidney? Or?
Technically, I have 3, but 2 are dead. So that's a good question. They do not remove the old ones. They don't remove these. Why? Because if the new kidney failed, and if they remove those, I would have no kidneys at all, and that's bad. At least these can pass water. Whereas it's better than nothing. That's why. And they're very invasive. Nature has packed your kidneys in super tight, so in order for them to remove them, they would have to go whether it's from the front or the back, they would have to go through so much stuff just to get them out for essentially no reason. So that's why. I technically have 3. That's a point of contention with me and my friends, because like, are you cheating when you go to physical competitions or whatever? So yeah. But basically I think one of the points that I try to make every time I do this is that don't worry if you don't know what you want to do later on, because you have the problems you think will happen when you go through high school, when you go through college, when you go through life, or whether you don't go through college or not. The problems you think you're going to have are probably not going to be the problems that you do have. Your life will throw you enough stuff where you have to deal with it. But one thing that I would say is absolutely you do want to run your own race. I imagine you're all here in this school for a reason. You have obviously proved yourselves in the larger student body of LA to get here. And even here, this is a very highly competitive environment to me that I see, and I think it only brings out the best in you. So my advice is, if your parents or if your friends or if anyone has these expectations of you that you yourself do not have expectations of, it doesn't mean don't love them, but it is a fight for yourself, and it is a fight for your future to stay true to you. So I think that's how I want to transition this. How are we doing on time? This is imaginary clock that you're not looking at. Okay, so I have until 2:05. Okay, are there any questions? Yeah.
Why didn't you do peritoneal dialysis? Because you did hemo.
Yeah, I did do hemo. Yeah, the reason why I didn't do peritoneal is essentially you have to put a thing in your stomach and it just filters through there. It's a little safer, kind of weirder to me, but I was not planning on staying in dialysis very long. And I knew that, like, in order for me to do that, that would have been a form of acceptance and commitment to dialysis long term, which I did not want. Even the catheters that were out, they were supposed to only be in for a maximum of 6 months. I pushed it to 9 months, only because I did not. And like the thing after the catheter is done, you have to get this thing in your arm where they connect an artery to a vein, and then that's where they actually plug in the dialysis machine. I did not want that at all. I wanted the transplant, absolutely, because I knew that was the closest I can get to back to a normal life. But that's why I didn't want to commit.
What made you go into CrossFit after?
Yeah, I've always been physical. I've always loved the training, and halfway through nursing school, it just kind of happened. Like I'd come home, and back then we used a lot of books. I think you guys use computers now, but I had such a stack of nursing books that I had to read, and then there was the CrossFit Journal. Remember when the CrossFit Journal was once a month? Mm-hmm. So it was like this little stack of the CrossFit Journal. I would study that. I was obsessed with it. When it came out, the form of fitness that it was preaching, how you could be strong, you could be fast, you could be flexible, you could have good cardio, all in the same human, was something that I was always searching for. But it was articulated in a way that I've never heard it articulated, in a way that made sense, and it was cutting a hole through essentially the country and then the world as far as the results it was producing, and it was making a mess. Like, it was making a good mess, and it was pissing off the right people and helping the right people. So I agreed with everything that it was doing. Even so much of what I've learned about politics and economics, I learned through CrossFit. So, but that's why.
How do you deal with the thought of having someone else's kidney within you?
That's funny. I didn't care. I literally didn't care. All I wanted was to live. Like, that's all I wanted. But it is weird to have somebody else's kidney in you. The furthest we ever took that talk on a meta level is that you are sharing DNA with another person, and therefore you might be taking on the characteristics of this other person. So when I was in construction, the only question they would ask me was like, "Do you feel like a girl?" And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm more emotional or sensitive. Like, I don't know what that means. So I'm just like, but no, I mean, it's completely fine to me. I think it's fantastic. I think it actually does make you in a way family, for sure. I gave her away at her wedding. She had like a lifetime free membership at my gym. Obviously, I mean, as long as I live. But yeah, it's cool. It actually isn't. That's like the least of your thoughts. It is weird though.
Does it ever like the effects of like what happened that you waited so long before I actually went to the doctors? Does that like affect your life now, or like is your life like influenced because of that? Like, how does your life change overall?
Okay, so ask the question again. Like
from when you waited those like that certain amount of years.
Yeah.
And like ignoring like the effects that you got. Like,
yeah.
How does it affect your life right now?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Well, I used to, because I remember in 1999 I did go to a doctor, and the first thing they proposed was, this is probably important, I should tell you. I'm on meds for essentially the rest of my life, or for as long as I have this kidney, I have to take meds. The reason why is because it is not a 100% match. It is only a 96% match. And the reason why is because they have type O does not mean that you can just take another person's kidney and be fine. Your body, all of your organs have protein signatures on them that identify them as your own, and so your brain knows not to attack it. So all this kidney represents inside my body, even as amazing as it is, the body is also dumb. So it will attack. It's still attacking the kidney at 4% because it's only a 96% match. So I have to take meds that suppress my immune system, in a way that it doesn't attack a foreign object and doesn't, So the way it's changed my life is, I made Sonia, that's her name. I made her a promise before that I would live without regret, in a way that I played life scared before. But if she saves my life, the life she saved will not be in vain. I will live every second, forever without regret. That was how that changed, and I don't regret it at all. It's beautiful.
Does that mean you get sick easier?
You know what? In theory, yes. But I think because of CrossFit and because of the way that I live now, and I just try to live a very healthy lifestyle, I get sick less now than I did before. So yeah, in theory it should, but clinically I don't get really sick. The doctor said that my immune system will operate at 30 or 40% of what it should. So I just call it the deadliest 30% operating immune system on Earth, because I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't gotten sick nearly as much as I did before. But yeah, it's the kidney is right here, so there is a scar. There is a life change in that I was in martial arts for like 10 years, and I wrestled in high school. I loved it. I would absolutely be in the mixed martial arts jiu-jitsu game now if that wasn't there. But I am not allowed to engage in contact sports or combat sports anymore. Because one wrong hit, I can lose it. I can lose a kidney, and that's it. So I do miss it. I do miss it a lot.
Since you've already had 2 kidneys, how did they connect the blood vessels to your new kidney?
Oh, good. Yeah, good question. How do you connect them? You know that the kidneys have a renal artery and a renal vein. I know it's weird because your actual arteries and veins, the function is switched when you go to kidney. I know that's confusing when you're studying A&P. The way I remember it is artery just means it's going away from, and vein means it's coming back towards. So they don't just take her kidney. They took her kidney and a portion of. I'll just draw it for you. Here's your bladder, and then here's your kidneys. World's crappiest drawing ever. And then it's connected. Oh no, yeah. Wait, fuck. Confused. Is it one? No, it's not the way. Okay, this makes a little more sense to me. Besina, tell me if I'm doing this wrong.
So there's the ureters, but there's also the blood vessels, which are
Yes, yeah. Okay, so what connects the kidneys to the bladder?
the ureters.
Ureters, okay.
Yeah.
So they took out her kidney and her ureters. That's what I'm trying to say. So the kidney actually sits right here, and then it's connected like that. That's how. Yeah, they didn't just take out the kidney. They took that out as well. Yeah. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like
So
science
you,
fiction.
So you are beyond your. Are you approaching your?
They told me. So yeah, I'm a nurse. I hold a nursing license. I don't consider myself an actual nurse. Sorry, because I didn't like it. But I'm respecting the medical profession less and less because so many of their decisions and prognoses are based on legal necessity, not medical necessity. They told me I had 10 to 15 years with the kidney, and I know why. I know why they said that. It's because they don't want me to have any false hope. But yeah, I'm approaching my 13th year with the kidney this Saturday, and I feel everything is fine. So knock on wood, everything is great. But I was not expecting it to make it past 10, to be perfectly honest. So I think that had a lot to do with the promise I made to her. I've been literally living in the moment since April 21st, 2004. And so now I think my biggest paradigm shift of last year was that I have to start thinking long term, because in my head I was going to not be here past 2017. But now I have to live with the thoughts like, oh wow, what if I could? The longest transplant survivor that they have on record, I think, is 40 years, 40 or 50 years, which is cool, super cool. And bet your butts I'm keeping up with like stem cell research and recreating kidneys out of nephrons in animals and then taking them out of the animal and put into you. Like I'm on it because I know someday this is gonna come back, and I want to be ready. But yeah, good question. Never asked that. Anything else? Nice to meet you guys.
She wants you guys more time. Yes. How you guys doing? Good. You good?
Good. We're hanging in there.
Hang in there. Hey, guess what? 30 more minutes and then we're good. We're done. Ish. Let's get it. Let's do it.
Let's get it.
So as promised, we have a guest speaker today. Many of you guys may know him. He did speak, I believe, at MI this year. For those of you that don't know him, me and Zeb have known each other for about 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I think we have to figure that
Feels like more.
Yeah, it feels like more. I definitely feel like I've known him for a long, long time. But we initially met through CrossFit. I went to a gym that he was the head coach at, and when we started our CrossFit program here, he came and very generously volunteered and donated a lot of time to our program. So some of you may know him through that. But now he has his own gym in Playa Vista, where he is head coach. He is also involved in a lot of things. Like this guy is pretty much a Renaissance man in a lot of ways. Super intelligent. I definitely think he could sit down with like anyone at a table of any discipline and hang and be able to hang, like talking about whether it's like astrophysics or philosophy or anatomy, and definitely fitness. So he's gonna be here to talk about his experience with what we've been learning about, which is the kidney. So if you guys can give him a warm welcome, Zeb Pasquale.
Thanks, Jay. Wow, that was a big intro. Like I don't have to say anything more. You just covered it all.
Yeah, let's hang out.
Yeah, thanks. So is this all you guys are seniors?
Yes.
Okay. It's been a while, it feels like, since I gave this talk, and I think I kind of messed up with the first one, so I want to lead this talk off with a story. You're all 17, 18? Yeah. So I'm going to assume that none of you have legally ever been to a bachelor or bachelorette party.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the story that I have that I will circle back to later is I went to a bachelor party once with some friends. You will attend them, all of you. They're going to be really fun. And then Our bachelor party was in Big Bear. Me and a buddy had to leave in the middle of the weekend at night. It was like 11 or 12 at night. Has anyone ever been to Big Bear? Okay, so have you ever tried to drive to or from Big Bear at night? No. Okay. No. Okay. So, can you imagine what it would be like at night?
It's scary.
It's very scary. So we left. It was about midnight, I think. There's no lights. I was driving. My buddy Rob was in the passenger seat, and we were, we had gone after it pretty hard that night, and so we're trying to stay sober as I'm driving, and then he was nursing a broken heart because him and his girlfriend of forever had just broken up. So I'm driving. I'm trying so hard to concentrate, and then we had a really close call, so that sobered me up completely, and both he and I were completely awake. But he was just like, Zeb, if something happens to you, if something happens to me but not you, can you find Boleyn? That was her name. Could you find Boleyn and tell her I'm sorry? And I'm driving, and I understand that he's hurt, and I understand that he's like trying to say something profound, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, yeah, that's fine. I will find her, and I will tell you sorry. And then, but I felt like I had to reciprocate that, and I was like, Rob, if something happens to me, but not you, and then I had nothing. Like I had nothing. And so no, but I was happy about that because I'm like, I got nothing. And he's like, oh wow. So essentially, I had zero regrets in life. In that moment, I had zero regrets. Everything I had done, I had ever wanted to do, I had done. Everything I had ever wanted to say to anybody, I had said. Everyone knows where I stand on things. Like there's no ambiguity left with anything. So I liked that feeling. So let's put that aside. I will come back to it at some point. And also, I messed up too. I'm assuming these are the correct markers to use for this whiteboard, right? These are not the correct markers. I don't know.
There's a green thing up there.
Don't know why they're up here in the first place. So also, I'm going to assume that you guys have studied the kidneys, so you can kind of look at this and tell me that it's a bean. It's a bean or a bean or a kidney.
That's a soybean.
That's the kidney you're getting from me today. So that means you have learned what normal kidney function is. I'm gonna run with this and say that my function today with you is to inform you clinically what happens when the kidney does not function normally. So raise your hand also if you know what you want to be when you grow up. Okay, good. This was markedly different from the last class. It's good. Does anyone not know what they want to be with it? Okay, totally fine, totally cool. Because this is gonna hopefully this was talked to all of you. When I was 13, 14, I already knew that I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, a Force Recon Marine, or a commando of some sort. When I went to high school, I ran cross country in the beginning season, wrestled in the middle, and swam for the swimming team in the end. Because from all my studies, I knew that all the training involved either running or swimming or fighting. So that's what I kind of prepped. That's what I kind of made my high school experience. I forced it to be that. And outside of high school, I was in a military program and I was in martial arts. So there was a lot of stuff going on so that I can be the best and as prepped as I could for that lifestyle. So I have a late birthday, so at 17, I had my parents sign the early release form thing to say that it's okay for me to enlist. I go to MEPS, which is the Medical Exam Processing Center, and they find this thing, because they have to take all these tests, and they find this thing called proteinuria. So, when you hear urea, you think? Urine. Good. And you hear protein, it's protein. So it just means that it doesn't mean that I ate a lot of protein, it just means that there is a malfunction in the kidney that is not filtering protein out, and it is manifesting in the urine. So to me, I thought that was a good thing. I had no idea what was happening. They said this is a sign and symptom of potential catastrophic kidney failure down the line. I'm 17, I play 3 sports, I'm in martial arts, and you're telling me that something is going to happen catastrophically down the line on this, to my state at the time, imagined specter of illness. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. This is impossible. But they said you are disqualified for 2 years. So this was 1997. They said come back in 2 years. So I basically, in my head, I had to wait till 1999 to come back and apply. So in that time, are there any Filipinos here? That's a first, except for you. So I'm gonna make gross generalizations. To me, the epitome of the American dream to Filipinos tends to be the nursing field, and without getting into that, I didn't know what else to do, so I took nursing classes in college. I also was recruited into their swim team, and started dabbling with weightlifting and gymnastics. Either way, I didn't really care about what I was doing. All I wanted was this. So I went back in 1999. I still tried to stay in shape, and then proteinuria was still present. It had not gone up or not. It had not gotten better or worse. It was just there. So at this point, because the military is part of the government and they have a budget, they said that not only was I disqualified again, but I was permanently disqualified. I could never serve. And so imagine that. Like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had prepped for it for about 5 or 6 years of my life. And when I wasn't prepping for it physically, I was prepping for it mentally, like studying and obsessively about it. I visited the bases in San Diego. I had studied their obstacle courses and all their runs and all their swims. And so not only could I not do it or wait 2 years, I had to deal with the fact that I could never do it. So I was crushed, confused, angry, lost. I wrote senators and congressmen. I forgot about that. I should have told the first class. I wrote senators and congressmen. They wrote me back. All they could do was have MEPS let me try again. So I went and tried again, and then they just disqualified me again. And so they just said, look, we can keep playing this game, but you should really pay attention to your health and blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I was just like, nothing outward was wrong. And that's the big thing about when kidneys don't function well, you don't notice there are no signs and symptoms unless it's laboratory works or hematology works. And by the time you do realize stuff, as you'll hear in a bit, it will be probably too late. So from 1999 to 2003, late 2003, I got accepted to the nursing program around here. I folded it into 4 equal pieces and I ripped it up because I really didn't want it. Broke my mom's heart, and then I was just lost. I knew I loved physical labor, so I looked for the hardest, dirtiest, roughest jobs there were at like FedEx and Home Depot and just random spots. I traveled a lot, I read a lot, but essentially I would not want to repeat my 20s just because it sucked and like I was lost. That's the price of not having a backup plan, or that's the price of not actually getting the thing that you want most in your lifetime. So 2003 hits. At this point, I'm working in a construction-y type job. I'm outside. Anyone live in the valley, or anyone from the valley? No. Okay, so I'm in this place called Chatsworth. It's outdoors. Yeah, it's anywhere between like 90 to 100 something degrees. And let me just say, 90 to 100 something degrees in the valley is different from 90 to 100 degrees near the beach. It is like the armpit of LA. So I'm humping concrete for 8-10 hours a day. I'm at least happy with that. And then all of a sudden, things start crashing at once. Does anyone here have migraines? Okay, so I've never had migraines. I don't have them ever since this stuff, but I have to imagine that it's like, you know, the vice tools where you rotate it and it just keeps clamping in. I imagine that's what migraines are like. So I started having those, right? So I'm just gonna say headaches. They came out of nowhere. Strangely, there's this other thing that happened called polyuria. So we know urea means urine, and then poly just means many, big, more than. So basically, you're working an 8 or 10 hour day. You're used to taking a piss like 3 or 4 times a day, but here this is like 8 to 10 times a day, and I can't hold it. Like for whatever reason, I'm on one end of the yard. I have to run to the bathroom, and I literally can't hold it. And the piece is like clear as a waterfall. So there's lots of stuff going on. I imagine, since you're in high school, none of you have actually had heart attacks, but they were not yet. Hopefully not ever. But there were times when it would feel like my heart would just like squeeze shut and stop, and it was terrifying. So I actually to this day don't know what it was, but I think I have theories on it. That's a broken heart. And then the worst of all that I remember the most is, so when your kidneys are failing, the kidney is what? What is the kidney's job? It's a filter, correct. So when filters don't work, filters are supposed to take bad things out from good things. And when they are not able to take bad things out from good things, the bad things stay in your body. And because the bad things stay in your body has compensatory mechanisms to try to get rid of bad things. And so I'm of course learning this after the fact. I would wake up at 10 at night, and everyone take a big deep breath for me right now. And then a long exhale. So generally speaking, that feels good. It feels good when you take a big deep breath. The good feeling you feel is actually gas exchange, because you're taking in oxygen and getting rid of carbon dioxide. I knew when I woke up at 10 and I couldn't breathe, the gas exchange wasn't happening. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to articulate it back then, but I take big deep breaths, and beyond a certain point, I could hear gurgling, like there was like water or something going on. And then when I'd exhale, I could also hear that same gurgling. So I found out later on that my body was trying to leach out all the stuff through any way it could, and so it's essentially like coming into my lungs. And so from 10 p.m. till about 2 a.m., 2 or 3 times a week, I would wake up like that, like just in my bed trying to breathe. It's essentially you're drowning in yourself. So that 2 or 3 times a week became, that says drowning. That became like 4 or 5 times a week. So now I'm not getting a lot of sleep. My job is based on physical labor. So I thought this was just a result of the lifestyle, and the truth is it wasn't. But either way, I'm at this point I'm 22 at the time. So imagine, like, I still am in complete denial at this point. Complete denial. I had forgotten, honestly, that I had been warned. I had been warned before. So I'm at a friend's party. I love dogs. So every time I see a dog, I have to play with it. And it was this huge Rottweiler. Of course, I grabbed it in this headlock and I started like rubbing on it. It's like nipped at me. It just nipped at me super fast. And in that same night, where it nipped at me, it looked like my face swelled up so bad. It looked like I swallowed a grapefruit. It was just like this. And my friend, and we were taking pictures. I'm trying to face sideways so I'm not embarrassed by the grapefruit that I just ate. And my friends are like, Zeb, maybe you should go to the hospital, like this is bad. And I'm like, you know what, you're probably right. Like, cause this thing is like huge and things have not been all right. So I do go to urgent care. Can anyone tell me what normal blood pressure is? There's a range. 120 over 80. Okay, all right, I'll take 80. When I was in school, it was 60, but that's fine. So 120 over 80 is normal blood pressure. If you are really, really in shape, or if you are blessed by hereditary, like if your ancestors were track athletes, then you could probably get away with something like this. It just means there's a lot of efficiency going on, or you're sleepy all the time. And then I went to urgent care, and my blood pressure was
Not good.
not awesome at all. Something like that, 190 over 110. And then, like a good doctor, she's like, "Is there anything going on? Do you have headaches? Is anything going on with your, your excretionary processes? Is there anything? Do you have any like heart palpitations? Any of this going on?" What do I say?
No.
Everything's fine. Everything's totally fine. Complete denial. So I go home. At this point, I've been dealing with this for months. This was getting worse. That was getting worse. That was getting worse. That was getting worse. All I wanted to do at this point was sleep, and it's good that I didn't. My mom is a nurse at this time. She lives in Hawaii at this time, thank God. I tell her, because I'm trying to be a good son, "Mom, I had no idea what normal blood pressure was. This is what it was, though." And that sounded pretty good to me. And she, rightfully so, freaks out. Calls me up. She's crying and just like, it's like the sound coming from the other line was like this banshee like monster. So I'm just like, oh God. And she goes, "You have to go back. I can't believe they sent you home. You have to go back. You have hours or days," she said. "You have hours or days to live." And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. So I went back the next day, and the next day, yeah, this is
The next day.
Oh, yeah,
I was
give me
not
something
right
like that.
then.
Yeah.
The next day.
And it was this.
Oh my
So it was a different doctor, and at this point I'm like, it was this little diminutive Asian lady, and she's like, these are emergency room level numbers. I'm sending you to the ER. She didn't even ask me any questions. It was good. So I went to the ER, and then when I go there, and a lot of you take medical interventions. Is that the name of the class?
Yeah.
So have you heard of this lab value before? Creatine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or it's There's creatine, which I get it. There's creatine, and then there's creatinine, which is a marker for kidney function. So, can anyone tell me? It's okay if you don't know the normal ranges for creatinine.
I have no idea.
Totally fine.
Don't take it.
It's like something to 90.
What?
It's like something to 90.
If you added a decimal in there somewhere,
Yeah.
kinda. Yeah. I'm just gonna let it go. It is a low value. It is 0.2 to 1.2. If it was 90, it was like 0.9.
Oh, I think I was thinking something else.
That's okay. Yeah. But anyway, it's low. It's a super low value, as it should be. So they see that I have high blood pressure, like emergency room level blood pressure.
That's just no.
Yeah, and so I'm at this, and it's literally getting worse every time they check. Because if you ever go to the urgent care or emergency room, and if it seems high, there is a medical protocol where they have to take your blood pressure 3 different times and take the average. And so it was never like so just to make sure that it wasn't a mistake. So it was in the high 2s and the low 1s every single time they took it. So they said the first thing they did before taking any blood was we have to get your blood pressure back to normal. So they gave me blood pressure meds to go from here to here after I'd been living with this for about 6 or 7 years. Was not awesome. I felt so sleepy and so off. I'm just like, I can't believe normal people feel like this all the time. I want to go back to this. But then they're like, we have to take your blood and find out if anything really is weird going on. So knowing that creatinine is 0.2 to 1.2, my creatinine was 14. So this is, at this point, they're like, I'm still, it's not even, I know, that's the thing. It's not necessary to know what it is. What is necessary is that this is normal, this is where I was at. This is normal, this is where I was at. So there's some bad stuff. There's some bad stuff going on. So they said we have to intervene. We have to introduce you to a nephrologist, who's a kidney doctor, and then at that point we'll decide what to do. We have to take an ultrasound of your kidneys to make sure that they still look like this, and that we can still save them. That was their first line of defense. So they come in, they take the ultrasound. Just for review, an ultrasound is they put gel and they put a thing. It's super cold, and then they look at it and it models onto a computer. So the danger with this obviously was that my kidneys were either malfunctioning really badly or they had completely failed. So when they looked at it, the kidneys did not look like this. They were actually super shrunken and almost like on the verge of death. So because if they could save it, they would try to save it through meds or through hydration. But either way, both my kidneys were completely gone and roasted. And at that point, that's when I remembered, oh crap, I had been warned. They told me. This was a long time. This was a long time since then. So I remembered then, oh man, I probably should have done something about that. So at this point, I didn't know what to do. The doctor talked to me about, the first thing he mentioned to me was something called a transplant. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I want that. That sounds like the closest thing I can get back to a normal life at this point. But he goes, before the transplant, you have to go through this thing called dialysis. Has anyone ever heard of dialysis before? Okay. Does anyone know someone who's going through dialysis right now? Okay. I'm very sorry. I hope they, whoever it is, gets through it. My mom is a smother mother. So before the days of social media, she somehow got a hold of all my email contacts and blasted everybody. And she was like, Zeb is in the hospital. I am Zeb's mom. He needs a kidney. Blah, blah, blah. So she gave him all the info. So part of me was a little upset because I felt like my privacy had been violated. But then I'm glad she did that because she's my mom. And so all my 30 of my friends came in and stepped up. Thankfully, they were just like, I'll save him. I'll give him my kidney. And so I am a type O, which sadly meant that I can only take from a type O.
Are you negative or positive?
I'm not sure, to be honest. And then, of course, all my friends are type A, type B, type AB. And I'm just like, well, it's my luck. And then, but 2 of them matched. One was, 2 of them were type O and 1 matched. And we actually went forward with it. That was a 9-month process. It was a girl. And I love the divergence because I'm a dark Pacific Islander dude, and the one who matched me was a paper Viking white redhead girl. And so she gave me her kidney, which was super cool. And ever since then, we got really close. I'm unofficial goddad of her kids. I gave her away at her wedding after that. It was cool. We got pretty close. It was cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, April 21st, 04 was the actual transplant date. So I'm taking her out this Saturday because it's April 21st for our 13th year anniversary. So yeah, it's super cool. I remember that. The thing I want to get across though is because being on dialysis was not something I would ever want to repeat, even though it saved my life. The way it works is they put something called a catheter in you. It's for me, it stuck out right here. There was these 2 ports, and it went in. I forgot the term. I think it was the superior vena cava or whatever. It went into where it goes into the heart, and then you sit in this chair, and then they connect you to this machine. The machine pumps the blood out of you. You're watching your blood come out of you into a filter, and then it filters the blood through and then pumps it right back into you. So you're sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, 2 or 3 times a week. So think about this. The kidney works 24/7, and it knows exactly what to do, and it works all the minute you are born to the minute you die, the kidneys are working if you're normal. Do you have dialysis 4 or 5 hours, 2 or 3 times a week? And even when you're on it, it cannot replicate the worst day that your kidney has with the best day of a dialysis machine. So there's that, and you only have it 15 hours a week instead of
all the time.
Instead of all the time. So it felt like crap. It literally felt like crap because your body's dealing with a lot of stuff. There's like identity issues as well because I felt like I was half a machine with all this stuff. And the best way I can describe it is not that you don't have energy, but it literally felt like somebody had reached in and taken my soul out, and I was just a body. It felt like I was half in and half out. It felt like I was half here and half there, like half somewhere else. I felt it was weird, man. It was like I felt like an abomination. I felt like a mockery of life. And because I was a mockery of life, and because I was like half machine anyway, what do I owe? Like it was weird. Like you go through a lot of you question a lot of stuff. So anyway, that was 9 months that I never want to repeat again. I remember it was at UCLA. They took her in at 7 a.m. They took me in at 9 a.m. And at this point, I'm still 22. And then they're like, "Hi, my name is blah blah blah. I'm going to help you be more comfortable." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I've always wanted to see if I could survive the sleeping drugs." So they're like, "All I want you to do is count backwards from 10." And I'm like, "Okay, I got this. 10, 9, and it's this white room. It's like 9. It's 9 a.m. 10, 9, 8, and then next thing I know, I'm in this completely different room, and it's 3 p.m. Like it's like that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been through that.
Yes,
before.
it's like so. The thing is, when you sleep for 8 hours straight, you wake up and you feel refreshed. It's like I quite obviously slept for 8 hours straight. Like you feel fantastic. But with this, it was not that at all. It's literally if you just close your eyes and open them right now, that's how it felt.
It was like you blink and then
you blink and you're like in some other place.
Yeah.
And I remember being super scared because first of all, I can't believe that there's drugs out there that can do that to a person. And so that's why how do I pronounce it?
Anesthesiologist.
That's why anesthesiologists get paid so much money because they have to handle all this stuff. So I remember waking up. But remember, from dialysis, I'm half alive, but I do remember waking up and I felt completely alive. I felt like the universe exploded in my stomach and just kind of expanded out, and I'm back. Like it sounds super cheesy, but it's so true. I felt alive again, and I'll never forget that first day because it was a dark room. It's 3 p.m. and I'm like, it was just 9 a.m. And then a nurse was like, "Hi, my name is," I forgot her name. Are you in any pain? She says, and so. I'm like, because when you wake up, it takes a second, and I'm like, yes, I am, because the scar is right here, and they literally, it felt like somebody had stabbed me and just like did that, because truthfully, that's what they did. When you sign papers for surgery, you are giving them legal right to conduct assault and battery, because if you don't sign those things, they are like, imagine just somebody stabbing you and just doing that and taking and putting something in there. So you have to give them permission to do these things. So it's there. I completely feel it. And they're like, what's your, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? And I'm trying to talk, and I'm like, because I remember they told me that when you're out, they have to artificially breathe for you because so many of your body systems have shut down. And so one of the things that they don't account for is that your throat has to be like, there has to be some humidity level for you to talk. And I can't talk, and I can't move because I'm on like some of the best drugs on earth. And so I'm just like, and I'm like trying to say 9. Because I don't believe that a person can actually say 10 when they're at a 10 out of 10. Because to me, if you're in that much pain, you should be passed out. So to me, the highest I can ever reach is 9. So I'm just like this because I can't say anything. I can barely communicate. And I remember the look on her face, and she's like, "Oh, let me check if the doctor gave you, a prescription for pain meds." And I said this in the other class, I could have done without her informing me that the doctor had not given me prescriptions for pain. And she's like, "Let me go get it right now." I'm like, "Okay," because I can't talk, I have no choice. So I'm just like following her as she's walking out the door, and who's there but my mom? And my mom stops her, and she's like, she's a nurse at this time, and nurses are the worst patients, let's just get real, because they know what's going on. And she's super short, so she's yelling at this person, where's this, where's that, blah blah. And all I want are my pain meds. And so I'm looking around the room to like find something to throw because all I want is that. And she's basically keeping this poor nurse and just like yelling at her. So that was the first day. But the thing about it is, from 1999 to 2003, I'm a super stubborn guy, so I really believed in my heart that I still had a chance to get in. Like I still had a chance to get into the military. So many of my friends from high school and from the program I was in actually went in and had gotten out and had done multiple tours of duty before, and they were still there. So I'm pumping them for stories. I'm asking them for like, how was boot camp? How was Iraq? How was all this? And they would tell me all the good and all the bad. But even still, even when I was on dialysis, guys, I thought I had a chance, which is crazy. But then once I woke up, I knew I had no chance. Once I woke up, because the scars here and the kidney is not well protected, I was forbade from engaging in combat sports or extreme sports or contact sports. And so at that point, I knew even if I was accepted, I would be a liability to any combat unit instead of an asset, and that was it. But there was something peaceful about that versus here, where it was not peaceful. And I knew I had a second shot. I knew I had a second chance at life. And the promise I made to Sonia was, that's her name. The promise I made to Sonia was, you saved my life. The life you save will not be in vain. And then I told her the story with Robert when we were leaving Big Bear. And I said, I liked the way that felt. I liked that I had no regrets. I promised because I played Life Scared kind of before that. So I said, I promise when I wake up from this, I will live the rest of my life without regret. And for the most part, I think I have. It's very much, I don't know what the term you guys have now, but at the time it was very much a YOLO mindset. And it was very much, at any point of any day, I want it to be crystal clear where I stand. I want people to be crystal clear how I feel about any topic or how I feel about them in general, and that's that. And there's so many. I've noticed so many of my friends play scared, and so many of my friends make decisions to please others instead of pleasing yourself. So that's probably the underlying message, besides learning about kidney function. But that's what happened. So anyway, I had no direction after this. I figured I would fulfill the only thing I knew besides that, which was nursing. I went to nursing school. But midway through nursing school, I found this program called CrossFit, and I'd always loved physical training. Yep, I'd always loved physical training. Everything about it made sense to me. All the stuff that I learned as far as like being strong and being fast and being flexible and being cardio, and it's not mutually exclusive things; they're actually inclusive. It all made sense to me. And every day I'd go home, and there was mounds of books that I knew I had to study, and then there was the CrossFit material. And I have never studied as obsessively during those years as I have for any other subject in any school when I first found CrossFit. And I had memorized essentially like everything that I had learned, and it was, to my friends, an obvious track for my life. So the fact that I became a trainer was not a surprise to them, even though it was a surprise to me. I graduated nursing school. They voted me to read, I don't know if I told you this, they voted me to read they voted me to read the oath, the Hippocratic Oath or whatever it is. They voted me to read that. But I kind of feel bad because the minute I graduated, I was working as a nurse's aide in a hospital in Santa Monica at the time. And I remember when I graduated, my mom, so you take the test, you take the boards. It is in fact really hard. You're supposed to find out if you get a big envelope, that means you made it. If you get a small envelope, it means you didn't make it. I didn't find out either way. My mom calls me because she stalks my life, and she calls me and she's crying because she's super happy. And I'm like, how did you find out that I passed the test? She's like, oh, I just checked the website, for your name and to see if you had an active number, which means you have a license number. And then so I found out that I was a nurse. It's illegal to work as a registered RN, but in the capacity of a nurse's aide because of legal stuff. The job does not allow you to, for example, start an IV, but the RN degree allows for you to do it. So it's just legally messy. So I did not work one day as a nurse after that for a long time, for like several years. But I accepted a training offer for a CrossFit gym and never looked back. And so 2015, some things went kind of south personally. So I did reactivate the nursing license and became a dialysis nurse. So that was like poetic in its own way. It was cool. I got to, looking at the dialysis chairs was a little tough for me, just because, it's like looking at a former traumatic experience. But it was cool because I got to help a lot of people, and I wanted to see someone get out to go into a transplant scenario. And I'm kind of in the middle of that, trying to help them out. But I'm not in that field right now. I'm still a CrossFit coach and aspiring entrepreneur, like Jay said, and I've got my hands in a lot of stuff. But we talk a lot. But that's my story. This is what happens when kidneys go bad. and what happens to you mentally when you have to deal with those things. So that's why I asked in the beginning, who knows what you want to do versus what you don't want to do. If you do know what you want to do, go for it with all your heart. Run your own race. Don't do things because you think other people have expectations on you or are projecting their expectations onto you. It's not worth it. And if you do it, you will resent the person that you are trying to please versus like doing it for yourself. And if you don't know, I almost envy you because the world is yours now. Like there's so many different ways to manifest what you want, especially now with the internet and the fact that you live in America. So at this point, I'm going to open up to questions. If anyone has any questions.
So how did you get the proteinuria? Was this just something that sort of like built up, or was it something that you did that sort of caused it?
The actual mechanism to achieve proteinuria, I am not sure, but I just know that proteinuria manifests when there is a malfunction of the kidney. It's not the fact that I ate lots of steaks, even though I do, because I love them, but it's because your kidneys are not filtering them out properly. That is why. And I feel like this is the easiest and simplest thing to detect. I'm sure there was other things wrong, but it was like the first one that they saw, and it's enough. It's enough for them to be like alert. Yeah.
Is your other kidney still like in that? Like,
yeah, good question. Yeah. They did not remove my other kidneys. So however you want to think about it, I either have one kidney or I have three. So the reason why is because nature has very well protected your kidneys. Whether they want to take it from the front or the back, it would be an extremely invasive procedure. And if the new kidney failed, and they would have to remove it, they would also and if they took out the old kidneys and they had to remove the failed new kidney, you would have no kidneys at all, and that is bad. At least with your old kidneys or with my old ones, they would at least still pass water. Otherwise, you would have no mechanism to get rid of anything, and that would be bad. Because I did ask them, if I never came into the hospital, what would it have been like? Because remember, I was training for essentially a military lifestyle and therefore my own death since a very young age. So I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared of it. And I just said, tell me how it would have been. And they said, if you were awake, you would have had a heart attack, which was there. Or if you were asleep, you would have drowned in your own stuff. So that's how it would have been. Yeah.
So how exactly did they put in a third kidney? Like, how is it organized, and like how do the connections work?
Good question. There was a cloth here. All right. So my terms, just because I've gone through this and just because I went through nursing school, doesn't mean that I was a good student at all. So I might mess up some stuff. So all you're gonna get are drawings, and then you get to fill in the stuff. Here is your bladder. Here are the kidneys. And then they connect to your bladder, and then there's your body connected to the kidneys. And then they didn't just take out her kidney, but they also took out her renal artery and vein and ureter as well. So actually, for me, that would be here. Sorry. It would be that. So exactly the same, pretty much. Exactly the same way. I would imagine it's here because A, it's simpler, B, the longer, the more invasive they would have to go, and the bigger the risk if they had to take out all of that instead of all of this. But that's how. Like that, that's my scientific explanation. Right.
How did your kidney failure happen in the first place? Was it like your diet?
Yeah, so it was called, at first they thought it was acute, which means quick, but it was actually chronic, which means forever. And then it was immune complex mediated glomerulonephritis. So there's these things called glomeruli inside the kidney. It's inside the kidney. And anything that ends with itis essentially means it's inflamed or swollen. So this stuff was swollen, and immune complex mediated meant my body was doing it itself. The current running theory, because we don't know exactly how, we only have essentially what amounts to guesses, are that all of your organs have protein signatures that designate it as your own, and therefore your body will not attack things that belong to you. And they think I once had a staph infection where the infecting agent carried a protein signature very similar to that of my own kidney. My body produces antibodies to fight off the infection, but now cannot tell the difference between the infecting agent and my own kidney, and therefore attacks my kidney. And it took this long for it to work. So I ask myself that question sometimes, because had I taken action here, would it have prevented that? And more importantly, had I taken action here, even if it did prevent it, the more important question in my mind was, would it affect my qualification into the military? That's really what I wanted. You know, not that I like cared about my own freaking health, even though I should have. That's essentially the only way that could have happened, because even in nursing school, I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked for the common causes of kidney failure. I couldn't find the thing that did me in. So, because you go to a dialysis center, all of them are 80 years old and old. I'm 22, and I'm still reasonably active, except for the catheter, which is right here. So every time I couldn't do pull-ups, or if I'm at a ball game and I'm super happy, I have to cheer like this because you can't move. So.
Wait, you still have a catheter in you?
No, it's gone. It's just scars now. Yeah, I was glad to be rid of that. Also, something of note, her kidney matched me 96% or something like that, because she is still a different person than me. So, for example, the body is amazing. It is also dumb. So it will still attack the kidney because it still recognizes it as a foreign object. So because of that, I have to be on, every transplant patient that you meet is on medications to calm their immune system down and prevent their immune system from attacking themselves. So I have to take these meds for as long as I have the kidney, which is good. I will take that any day over dialysis. But because of this, there's some sports that I cannot play, which if I was allowed to, I would absolutely be in the now MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing game more. I can't do that now, although I did do that a lot before. But I can do CrossFit, and I can do surfing, and I can rock climb, and I can do all those things. And I am working on getting back here to help with CrossFit. So hard, like we're working on it. But no, I love these questions. Are there any more? No one else?
So her surgery was quite amazing. To take it out of her.
Yes, yeah. It was hard for me because after the surgery, I continuously got better, but she kept getting worse. And by worse I mean stuff just kept happening. Like there were these weird things, and we kept talking about it, and how there's superstition. There's like groups of superstition where because I gained something and she lost something, there are ways that manifests that medicine can't account for. You know, so yeah, it was a little hard on her in the beginning, but she's fine now. She's married with 2 kids and happy. So I'm gonna see her on Saturday. But yeah, she's doing great. It was hard on both of us. So, but yeah. Any other questions? When is prom?
May 18th.
All right. You don't know?
It's May 18th.
Are you all going?
Yes.
All right. When is grad night?
May 22nd.
It's a Tuesday, right?
He's been to a few grad nights.
Yeah, I've been to a few. You guys mind if I tag along?
Yeah, come on.
Where is it?
Disneyland.
Where is prom being held? I think once it was a boat.
LAX Renaissance.
Wait, where is it?
LAX Renaissance.
So that means, it's next week. That means prom proposals have started.
Yeah.
They happened months ago.
What happened?
There's been like so many.
I know.
It's so many.
When I was here, I like loved watching them because my high school, it was not like that at all. Was it like that for yours?
No.
It was like,
No. There's a lot.
hey, who are you going to prom with? You want to go? You know, that's it was just like that. There wasn't anything. There were no prom proposals at all. But thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate all your.